Praise the Lord. My name is Pastor M.A. Varghese. I am serving the Bethel Assemblies of God Church, Bangalore for over 30 years now. I am saved from a Christian background, and it was 55 years back that I started serving God after my salvation and baptism. In the very initial days when I was worshipping God along with the Pentecostal people in Kerala, where I was born, I happened to hear about the testimonies of healings and miracles performed by the Lord Almighty in different countries. My world was really limited to very little few kilometers around my home, and henceforth I never had an opportunity of getting exposed, and it was too difficult for me to believe that there was a healing. I sincerely prayed unto the Lord, if it is true, kindly give me also opportunity to witness the healings that you are doing like any other part of the world. I am thankful to the Lord for in the due course of time, God enabled me to see the heavy miracles of God in the area of healings. A time came that I started praying for people, and people were reported to be healed. I came to Bethel Assemblies of God Church when we were too small. My spiritual knowledge and experience was really limited to the circumstances where I was brought up. But then I have seen as the ministry grows, the power of the Lord is also moving high. I have seen the healings taking place under the hands of me as well my co-workers, those who are working. By then I started hearing about the testimony of people that they are taken to heavens and they are taken to hell. They have seen the various visions, and the Lord has taught them various things about hell and heaven. It became my prayer again, Lord, like you have shown me the miracles in the healing and in the area of casting of demon, please, Lord, let me know this also. And if this is true, like many other miracles, give me an opportunity to see. I have seen various miracles of God, much different from what I had been listening earlier, various areas, and I knew it was the Spirit of the Lord which was moving. Yes, we had to face criticisms from all around, but amongst the criticism, since we are trusting the Lord had been revealing us various things. The ministry started coming up from the church. Finally, I had been really thankful to God for all this. But one day, suddenly I had a testimony from one of our church members that she had an opportunity to go to heaven in a trance or in a vision that the Lord has taken her. Next day, she came with another testimony that the Lord has taken her to the hell and shown. While a prayer meeting was going on in the church, it all happened in the church, and henceforth I was an eyewitness to what is happening, and her witnessing is that she has seen several things. Today, we have a number of people from the church who have the experience of visiting the heaven and hell. 2 or 3 people where we will be putting through are personally known to me quite for some time. Sometimes when such things happens, people used to say that this is all from the subconscious mind it comes up, and whatever a person had a faith or belief that comes out at times from the subconscious mind. But I am thankful to the Lord for the 3 people whom I have seen in my church. All of them were the raw non-Christian backgrounds, but when they come back with the stories, they all are giving the same story. They stay at different places, work in different places, occupy themselves in different places, have no opportunity of meeting each other or discussing about these things at any time. With all the sincerity, I am given to understand they are true. Moreover, certain individual cases when were reported to us, we made enquiries on it and found that such people were dead in the time that was specified, and hence I am totally convinced that this is from God. We have Sister Cynthia from a non-Christian background. We have Brother Sharath, again from another non-Christian background. And we have Sister Manju, again from a non-Christian background. Had it been some of the people from the Christian background, I could have thought that it is a religious feeling that is fed into them from the Bible or elsewhere, or from the surrounding, even from their own household. That could be the reason that they have come out with those information during a trance. But I thank God, these are not the people who ever had the background of the Bible. They are the people who have seen the vision from the Lord and reported to us. However, like any other incident, these words are also not for a doctrinal purposes. These are for explanation and for easy understanding and witnessing unto us for the word of God. But for any doctrinal case, none of these words can be taken into, for the authority of the doctrine of the Church of God is Bible and Bible alone. Since these things go in line with the Bible, I accept it as the practical fact. And hereby I am thankful to the Lord, and I am privileged to introduce these testimonies before you. Sisters, brothers, please know that the coming of the Lord is right at hand, and we do not know what is our time. Thereby, be prepared to meet thy God and take your right position with God, so that He will take you to the right place. You have an eternity. You have an eternity. I repeat, you have an eternity. Never spoil your eternity. Never get condemned yourself, but enjoy the presence of God and the provisions that God has given for you by the death of Jesus on the cross of Calvary. We have the redemption from the cross of Calvary that Jesus has earned for us. Believe in Jesus, accept Him as your personal Savior, obey the word of God, be righteous before God and lead a holy life, and you will be with Jesus. As He said, I will come and take you to the place where I am being seated with my Father. In those mansions where I am seated, you will also be there. Praise the Lord, and God bless you.
പ്രൈസ് ദി ലോർഡ്. ദൈവത്തിൻ്റെ അതിപരിശുദ്ധമായ നാമം വാഴ്ത്തപ്പെടുമാറാകട്ടെ. എൻ്റെ പേര് മഞ്ജു. ഞാനൊരു അക്രൈസ്തവ മാർഗത്തിൽ നിന്ന് രക്ഷിക്കപ്പെട്ടു വരുന്ന വ്യക്തിയാണ്. കഴിഞ്ഞ 2012 നവംബർ ഇവിടെ വെച്ച് നടന്ന ഉപവാസ പ്രാർത്ഥനയുടെ 17ാമത്തെ ദിവസത്തിൽ അന്ന് അതിശക്തമായ ആത്മപ്രവാഹത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് പാസ്റ്റർ ഇവിടെ മെസ്സേജ് എടുക്കുകയും അന്നേ ദിവസത്തിൽ തന്നെ ആത്മശക്തിയെക്കുറിച്ച് പാസ്റ്റർ ശക്തമായി പറയുകയുണ്ടായി. ആ മെസ്സേജിൻ്റെ അവസാനത്തിൽ എല്ലാവർക്കും വേണ്ടി ശക്തമായി പ്രാർത്ഥിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കെ എൻ്റെ ശരീരത്തിൽ പ്രത്യേക തരത്തിലൊരു ചൂട് അനുഭവപ്പെടുവാനും ഞാൻ പതിയെ നിലത്തേക്ക് വീഴുവാനും ഇടയായിത്തീർന്നു. അതിനുശേഷം ഞാൻ അവിടെ നിലത്ത് വീണ് അങ്ങനെ കിടക്കുമ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ ശരീരത്തിൽ നിന്ന് പതിയെ ആ ചൂട് പുറത്തേക്ക് പോവുകയും എൻ്റെ ആത്മാവ് ശരീരത്തിന് പുറത്തായി ശരീരത്തിൻ്റെ അടുത്ത് തന്നെ നിൽക്കുന്നതായും എനിക്ക് മനസ്സിലായി. ഞാൻ ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുമ്പോൾ തന്നെ എൻ്റെ ശരീരത്തിന് പുറത്തായി നിൽക്കുന്ന ആത്മാവിൽ അനേക ദൂതന്മാർ സഭയുടെ അകതളത്തിലൂടെ നടക്കുന്നതായി ഞാൻ കണ്ടു. ഞാൻ ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുമ്പോൾ പാസ്റ്റർ ഇടത്തും വലത്തുമായി 2 ദൂതന്മാർ നിൽക്കുകയും അതേ സമയത്ത് തന്നെ ഞാൻ പാസ്റ്റർ എന്ന് ശബ്ദമുയർത്തി വിളിക്കുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ തന്നെയും എൻ്റെ ശബ്ദം പാസ്റ്റങ്ങൾ കേൾക്കുവാൻ ഇടയായില്ല. ഞാൻ നോക്കുമ്പോൾ ഒരു പുതിയ തരം ആത്മപകർച്ചയിൽ ഒരു അത്ഭുത ശുശ്രൂഷയിലേക്ക് അനേകരെ കൈപിടിച്ച് നടത്തുവാൻ വേണ്ടി ഒരു പ്രത്യേക തരം അഭിഷേകമായി അപ്പച്ചനെ ഒരു പുതിയ ശുശ്രൂഷ പലരിലേക്കും പകരുവാൻ ആ 2 ദൂതന്മാരും ഒരു ഗൈഡൻസ് കൊടുക്കുന്നതായി ഞാൻ കണ്ടു. അതിനുശേഷം ഒരു വെള്ള വസ്ത്രധാരിയായ ദൂതൻ എൻ്റെ സമീപത്ത് വന്നു നിന്ന് എനിക്ക് നിന്നെ ചിലത് കാണിക്കുവാനുണ്ട് എന്ന് എന്നോട് പറഞ്ഞു. ആ സമയം തന്നെ എൻ്റെ ആത്മാവ് ഈ അന്തരീക്ഷ മണ്ഡലത്തിലേക്ക് എടുക്കപ്പെടുകയും നോക്കി നിൽക്കുമ്പോൾ തന്നെ സഭയ്ക്ക് മുകളിൽ ഞാൻ വരുവാനും ഇടയായിത്തീരുന്നു. ഒരു പ്രകാശമണ്ഡലം എനിക്ക് മുമ്പിൽ തുറക്കപ്പെടുകയും അതിവേഗത്തിൽ ഞാൻ ആ പ്രകാശമണ്ഡലത്തിലൂടെ സഞ്ചരിക്കുമ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് മുൻപിൽ ഒരു വാതിൽ ഞാനിങ്ങനെ കണ്ടു. ആ വാതിൽ നിന്ന് ശക്തമായി പ്രകാശം എൻ്റെ മുൻപിലേക്ക് ആഞ്ഞടിക്കുന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഞാൻ നോക്കിയേ അതിനകത്തുനിന്ന് ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു ശബ്ദം കേട്ടു, ഇതാവുന്നു നിങ്ങൾക്കായി ഒരുക്കപ്പെട്ടിരിക്കുന്ന പട്ടണം. ഈ ശബ്ദം ഞാൻ 3 പ്രാവശ്യം കേൾക്കുകയും അതിനുശേഷം ഞാൻ നോക്കി നിൽക്കുമ്പോൾ ആത്മാവ് ശക്തമായി എൻ്റെ മേൽ വരികയും വീണ്ടും ഞാൻ അന്തരീക്ഷ മണ്ഡലത്തിൽ വരികയും ശേഷം ആത്മാവിൽ പഴയ ചൂട് അനുഭവിക്കുകയും ഞാൻ അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ശരീരത്തിലേക്ക് മടങ്ങി വരുവാനും ഇടയായിത്തീർന്നു. അതിനുശേഷം എൻ്റെ ശരീരത്തിന് താങ്ങുവാൻ കഴിയാത്തൊരു ദൈവിക തേജസ് ഞാൻ അനുഭവിക്കുവാൻ ഇടയായിത്തീർന്നു. അതിനുശേഷം ഉപവാസ പ്രാർത്ഥനയുടെ 17ാം ദിവസത്തിന് ശേഷം ഉപവാസ പ്രാർത്ഥന അവസാനിക്കുന്നതിൻ്റെ തലേ ദിവസം അതേപോലെ ആദ്യ അനുഭവം പോലെ തന്നെ എൻ്റെ ശരീരത്തിൽ പ്രത്യേകമായ ചൂട് അനുഭവിക്കുകയും ഈ സമയത്ത് ശരീരത്തിൽ നിന്ന് പഴയതുപോലെ തന്നെ ആത്മാവ് പുറത്തു പോകുകയും ആ സമയം സഭയുടെ അകത്ത് ശക്തമായ ദൈവിക തേജസ് കൊണ്ട് നിറഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്നത് ഞാൻ കണ്ടു. അതിനുശേഷം ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചു കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഒരു മുഴക്കത്തിൽ ഞാനൊരു ശബ്ദം കേട്ടു, ഈ സഭയുടെ ഉള്ളിൽ നിന്ന് 3 വ്യക്തികളെ ലോകരാഷ്ട്രത്തിൻ്റെ സുവിശേഷീകരണത്തിനായി എനിക്ക് ഉപയോഗിക്കേണ്ടതാകുന്നു. ആ ശബ്ദം ഞാൻ മുഴക്കത്തിൽ കേട്ടുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുമ്പോൾ തന്നെ എൻ്റെ ആത്മാവ് പതിയെ ഒരു അന്ധകാരത്തിൻ്റെ മണ്ഡലത്തിലേക്ക് എടുക്കപ്പെടുകയും ഒരു ഇരുളിൻ്റെ മേഖലയിലേക്ക് ഞാൻ സഞ്ചരിക്കുവാനും ഇടയായിത്തീർന്നു. അങ്ങനെ നോക്കി നിൽക്കുമ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് സഹിക്കുവാൻ കഴിയാത്ത ദുർഗന്ധം ഇങ്ങനെ വമിക്കുകയും അതിനുശേഷം ശ്രദ്ധിക്കുമ്പോൾ ആദ്യം അത് കത്തിക്കരിഞ്ഞ വസ്തുക്കളുടെയും പിന്നെ അത് ചീഞ്ഞു നാറുന്ന വസ്തുക്കളുടെയും മണമായി എനിക്ക് മനസ്സിലായി. തുടർന്ന് അന്ധകാരം പതിയെ നീങ്ങുമ്പോൾ ഒരു പുരുഷ സാദൃശ്യമുള്ള ഒരു രൂപം അത് നിലത്ത് കിടക്കുന്നതും അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ ശരീരം മുഴുവൻ പുഴുക്കൾ ഇങ്ങനെ തിന്ന് നശിപ്പിക്കുകയും ആ വേദനയിൽ അദ്ദേഹം നിലവിളിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. പക്ഷേ അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ നിലവിളിയുടെ ശബ്ദം കേൾക്കുകയോ അദ്ദേഹത്തെ ആരും രക്ഷിക്കുകയോ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നില്ല. ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചു കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുമ്പോൾ തന്നെ അദ്ദേഹം കിടക്കുന്നതിൻ്റെ രണ്ട് വശത്തു നിന്നും പാമ്പുകൾ അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ ശരീരത്തെ വലിഞ്ഞു മുറുക്കുകയുണ്ടായി. ആ മുറുക്കലിൻ്റെ ആധിക്യത്തിൽ അദ്ദേഹം നിലവിളിക്കുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ തന്നെയും ആരും അദ്ദേഹത്തെ രക്ഷിക്കുവാനായി വന്നില്ല. നോക്കുമ്പോൾ ഒരു തീ ഒരു വശത്തു നിന്ന് വന്ന് അദ്ദേഹത്തെ മൂടി. പക്ഷേ ആ അഗ്നിയിൽ അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ ശരീരമോ അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ ബോഡിയൊന്നും അത് കത്തി നശിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നില്ല. അങ്ങനെ ഞാൻ നിൽക്കുമ്പോൾ അവിടെ നിന്ന് ആ വേദനയിൽ ഞാൻ കരഞ്ഞപ്പോൾ എന്നോട് കൂടെയുള്ള ദൂതൻ എൻ്റെ കണ്ണ് തുടച്ചിട്ട് എന്നോട് പറഞ്ഞു, നീ കരയരുത്, ഇനിയും നിന്നെ ചിലത് കാണിക്കേണ്ടതാകുന്നു. ഇത് പറഞ്ഞതിന് ശേഷം എനിക്ക് അതിനുശേഷം എനിക്ക് കരയുവാൻ സാധിച്ചിരുന്നില്ല. ഞാൻ മുൻപോട്ട് പോകുമ്പോൾ ഒരു പെൺകുട്ടി എൻ്റെ മുൻപിൽ ഇങ്ങനെ നിൽക്കുകയും അവളുടെ ശരീരം മുഴുവൻ ചീഞ്ഞഴിഞ്ഞതാണ്. മാംസവും മുടിയും മൊത്തം ചീഞ്ഞഴിഞ്ഞ് നിൽക്കുമ്പോൾ തന്നെ ഞാൻ നോക്കി നിൽക്കെ അവളുടെ ശരീരത്തിൽ നിന്ന് മാംസ കഷ്ണങ്ങൾ അടർന്ന് താഴെ വീണുകൊണ്ടിരുന്നു. ഇതെന്താണെന്നും ഇതിന് കാരണമെന്ന് ഞാൻ ചോദിക്കുന്നതിന് മുൻപേ അതിശക്തമായി അവിടെ ഞാനൊരു മുഴക്കം കേട്ടു. ഇൻ്റർനെറ്റിലൂടെയും പലവിധമായ പാപചിന്തകളുടെയും ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ ലോകത്തിലേക്ക് ജനത്തെ ആഞ്ഞു വലിക്കുമെന്ന ആ ശബ്ദത്തിൻ്റെ ഒടുവിൽ ആ പെൺകുട്ടി താൻ നിൽക്കുന്നതിൻ്റെ ബേക്കിലേക്ക് ഒരു വലിയ അഗ്നികുണ്ഡത്തിലേക്ക് വലിയ അലർച്ചയോടുകൂടെ ആ പെൺകുട്ടി മറഞ്ഞു വീഴുവാനിടയായി തീർന്നു. അതിനുശേഷം എനിക്ക് മുമ്പിൽ ഒരു വാതിൽ തുറന്നു. ഞാൻ നോക്കുമ്പോൾ കണ്ണെത്താ ദൂരത്ത് പറന്ന് കിടക്കുന്ന ഒരു അഗ്നിക്കടലായി എനിക്കത് തോന്നി. മുകളിൽ നിന്നും അഗ്നി കഷ്ണങ്ങൾ താഴേക്ക് വീണുകൊണ്ടേയിരുന്നു. ഞാൻ ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചപ്പോൾ അതിനകതളത്തിൽ നിന്നും പല്ലുകടിയുടെയും പിറുപിറുപ്പിൻ്റെയും കരച്ചിലിൻ്റെ ശബ്ദം പുറത്തു വന്നു. ഈ സമയത്ത് കൂടെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്ന ദൂതനോട് ഇനി എനിക്കൊന്നും കേൾക്കേണ്ട എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് ഞാൻ കരഞ്ഞപ്പോൾ പെട്ടെന്ന് കണ്ണ് അടച്ചു തുറക്കുന്ന നേരം കൊണ്ട് തന്നെ എൻ്റെ ശരീരം അന്തരീക്ഷ മണ്ഡലത്തിലേക്ക് എടുക്കപ്പെടുകയും ചർച്ചിന് മുകളിൽ അതിങ്ങനെ നിൽക്കുകയും ഇടയായിത്തീർന്നു. ഞാൻ ചർച്ചിന് മുകളിലേക്ക് നോക്കുമ്പോൾ ഒരു കുഴൽ രൂപത്തിൽ ദൈവത്തിൻ്റെ തേജസ് ചർച്ചിന് മുകളിലേക്ക് ഇറങ്ങി വരികയും ആ തേജസ് സഭയെ മുഴുവനായി മൂടുന്നത് ഞാൻ കണ്ടു. ആ സമയത്ത് കൂടെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്ന ദൂതൻ വീണ്ടും ഇതിനകത്ത് നടക്കുന്നത് ചിലത് നിന്നെ കാണിക്കേണ്ടതാവുന്നു എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് എൻ്റെ ആത്മാവിനെ സഭയുടെ ഉള്ളിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവന്നപ്പോൾ സഭയുടെ ഉള്ളു ഫുള്ളും ദൈവ തേജസ്സാൽ നിറഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു വശത്ത് ദൈവ തേജസ് അധികമാകുന്നു എന്ന് ചിന്തിച്ച് ഞാൻ ആ വശത്തേക്ക് ഓടി ചെല്ലുമ്പോൾ അവിടെയല്ല മറ്റൊരു സ്ഥലത്താണ് ആ തേജസ് അധികമെന്ന് എനിക്ക് തോന്നി. പക്ഷേ അപ്പോൾ കൂടെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്ന ദൂതൻ എന്നോട് ഇങ്ങനെ പറഞ്ഞു, തുല്യ തേജസ് കൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ ഇതിനെ നിറച്ചിരിക്കുന്നു എന്ന് പറയുവാനിടയായിത്തീർന്നു. അതിനുശേഷം ആദ്യം ഞാൻ കേട്ട ആ ദൈവശബ്ദം വീണ്ടും ഞാൻ കേട്ടു. ഇതിനകത്ത് നിന്ന് 3 വ്യക്തികളെ ലോകരാഷ്ട്രത്തിൻ്റെ സുവിശേഷീകരണത്തിന് വേണ്ടി എനിക്ക് ഉപയോഗിക്കേണ്ടതാകുന്നു. ആ ശബ്ദത്തിന് ശേഷം എൻ്റെ ശരീരത്തിലേക്ക് വീണ്ടും ആ ചൂട് അനുഭവപ്പെടുകയും വീണ്ടും ഞാൻ തിരിച്ചെൻ്റെ ശരീരത്തിലേക്ക് മടങ്ങി വരുവാനും ഇടയായിത്തീർന്നു.
ദൈവനാഥൻ മഹത്വം ഉണ്ടാകട്ടെ. എൻ്റെ പേര് ശരത്. ഞാൻ 2008 യേശുവിൻ രക്ഷകനെ സ്വീകരിച്ചു. ഞാൻ അക്രിസ്ത മാർഗത്തിൽ രക്ഷിക്കപ്പെട്ട് പോകുന്നതായിരുന്നു. യേശുവിൻ രക്ഷകനെ സ്വീകരിച്ചതിന് ശേഷം ഈ ബദലൈറ്റ് ചർച്ചിൽ ഞാൻ കണ്ടിന്യൂസ് ആരാധിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി വന്നിരുന്നു. 2012 ഞങ്ങൾ ചർച്ചിൻ്റെ ആനുവൽ ഫാസ്റ്റിംഗ് പ്രയറിൽ കേഴ്സ് ബ്രേക്കിങ്ങിൻ്റെ ദിവസം പാഷങ്ങൾ എനിക്ക് വേണ്ടി പ്രാർത്ഥിച്ച സമയത്ത് എൻ്റെ ശരീരത്തിലെ സകല വെയിറ്റും നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു. ഞാൻ താഴെ വീഴുന്നതായിട്ട് എനിക്ക് അനുഭവം ഉണ്ടായി. പാഷങ്ങൾ എനിക്ക് വേണ്ടി പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് എൻ്റെ അകത്ത് വലിയൊരു ശക്തി ഇറങ്ങുന്നത് പോലെ എനിക്ക് ഫീലിംഗ് വന്നായിരുന്നു. ഞാൻ താഴെ വീണ് കഴിഞ്ഞ ഉടനെ എനിക്ക് ഉണ്ടായത് അനുഭവം, ഞാൻ കണ്ണാടിയിൽ നോക്കുമ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് എങ്ങനെ കാണാൻ വേണ്ടി പറ്റുന്നു അതേപോലെ ഒരു രൂപം എഴുന്നേറ്റ് നിൽക്കുന്നതായിട്ട് കാണാൻ ഇടയായി തീർന്നു. തുടർന്ന് ഒരു ചെറിയൊരു കാറ്റ് അടിക്കുന്നതായിട്ട് എനിക്ക് ഫീലായി. ആ കാറ്റ് എന്നെയും കൊണ്ട് മുകളിലോട്ട് പോകുമായിരുന്നു. കുറച്ച് ദൂരം പോയതിനു ശേഷം ഞാൻ ഒരു മുള്ളിലെല്ലാം ചവിട്ടുന്ന പോലെ എനിക്ക് തോന്നി. ഞാൻ നേരെ താഴോട്ട് തിരിച്ചു വരാൻ ഇടയായി തീർന്നു. അതേപോലെ തന്നെ ആദ്യമുണ്ടായ ആ കാറ്റ് രണ്ടാമതും എൻ്റെ ആത്മാവിൽ അടിക്കുന്ന പോലെ ഫീലായി. ഞാൻ നേരെ മുകളിലോട്ട് പിന്നെയും മുകളിലോട്ട് കയറിപ്പോകുന്ന സമയത്ത് എനിക്കുണ്ടായ അനുഭവം എൻ്റെ കാലിൽ കയറിട്ട് കൊടുക്കുന്നത് പോലെ എനിക്ക് ഫീല് വന്നു. ഞാൻ നേരെ താഴോട്ടേക്ക് വന്നു. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ സെക്കൻഡ് ടൈം താഴോട്ട് വന്ന സമയത്ത് മുകളിലോട്ട് കയറിപ്പോകാൻ വേണ്ടി എന്നെ ഒരു ദൂതൻ ഹെൽപ്പ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് പോലെ എനിക്ക് മനസ്സിലായി. ഒരു ദൂതൻ എന്നെ മടിയിൽ ഇരുത്തിക്കൊണ്ട് നേരെ മുകളിലോട്ട് കയറിപ്പോകുമായിരുന്നു. ഒത്തിരി ദൂരം സഞ്ചരിച്ചതിന് ശേഷം എനിക്ക് കാണാൻ ഇടയായി തീർന്നത് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ ലൈഫിൽ കാണാത്ത, അതായത് ഈ ഭൂമിയിൽ ഞാൻ കാണാത്ത ഒരു വലിയൊരു പ്രകാശം കാണാൻ ഇടയായി തീർന്നു. അതൊരു സ്ക്വയർ ടൈപ്പിലായിരുന്നു ആ പ്രകാശം ഞാൻ കണ്ടത്. ആ വലിയൊരു പ്രകാശത്തിൻ്റെ അകത്തോട്ട് എന്നെ ദൂതൻ കൊണ്ടുപോകുന്നതായിട്ട് എനിക്ക് മനസ്സിലായി. എൻ്റെ ഭൂമിയിൽ കാണാത്ത അത്രയും വലിയ പ്രകാശമായിരുന്നു അവിടെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നത്. ആ പ്രകാശത്തിനകത്ത് ഞാൻ എത്തിയ സമയത്ത് എനിക്ക് അവിടെ ഒത്തിരി കാലം കാണാൻ ഇടയായി തീർന്നു. അവിടെ സ്വർണ്ണത്തിൻ്റെ സ്റ്റാച്യു എനിക്ക് കാണാൻ ഇടയായി തീർന്നു. കുറേ നദികൾ പോലെ എനിക്ക് കാണാൻ ഇടയായി തീർന്നു. അത് കുറേ രഥങ്ങൾ, സ്വർണ്ണത്തിൻ്റെ രഥങ്ങൾ എനിക്ക് കാണാൻ ഇടയായി തീർന്നു. പക്ഷേ ആ നിൽക്കുന്നതെല്ലാം ഒത്തിരി വൈറ്റ്, അത് സ്മോക്ക് പോലെ, ഒരു പുക പോലെ നല്ല വൈറ്റ് നിറത്തിലിരിക്കുകയായിരുന്നു. അവിടെ നിൽക്കെ ഒരു ദൂതൻ വന്ന് പാഷങ്ങളെ പോലെ ഒരു വ്യക്തി അവിടെ നിൽക്കുന്നതായിട്ട് എനിക്ക് കാണാൻ ഇടയായി തീർന്നു. തുടർന്ന് ആ ഒരു ദൂതൻ പാഷങ്ങളോട് എന്തോ രഹസ്യത്തിൽ ഒന്ന് പോയി പറയുന്നത് ഞാൻ ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചു. അത് ഞാൻ കേൾക്കാൻ ശ്രമിച്ചെങ്കിലും എനിക്കത് കേൾക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി പറ്റിയില്ല. പക്ഷേ കുറച്ച് സെക്കൻഡുകൾക്ക് ശേഷം, മിനിറ്റുകൾക്ക് ശേഷമോ ക്ലിയറായിട്ട് അറിയത്തില്ല. പക്ഷേ അതിനുശേഷം എനിക്ക് മനസ്സിലായി ആ സ്റ്റാച്യൂവിൽ ജീവൻ വെക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി തുടങ്ങി. ആ സ്വർണ്ണത്തിൻ്റെ സ്റ്റാച്യു നടക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി തുടങ്ങി. നേരെ ഒരു ദൂതൻ വന്ന് പാഷങ്ങളെയും കൊണ്ട് ആ സ്റ്റാച്യൂവിൻ്റെ ഫ്രണ്ട് കൊണ്ടുവച്ചു. ആ പാഷ്ടങ്ങളും തുടർന്ന് ആ ദൂതൻ സ്റ്റാച്യു, സ്വർണ്ണത്തിൻ്റെ ആ സ്റ്റാച്യു, ജീവൻ വെച്ച സ്റ്റാച്യുവും കൂടി നടക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി മുന്നോട്ട് നടന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക. നേരെ ഭൂമിയിലോട്ട് അത് വരുന്നതായിട്ട് എനിക്ക് കണ്ട സമയം, ഞാൻ താഴെ നോക്കിയ സമയത്ത് എനിക്ക് ബദലിൽ ചർച്ച് കാണാമായിരുന്നു. നേരെ സ്റ്റേജിൻ്റെ അടുത്തോട്ട് വന്ന് ഇവരെ ഒന്ന് ലാൻഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നതായിട്ട് മനസ്സിലായി. തുടർന്ന് ഞാൻ താഴോട്ട് നോക്കിയ സമയത്ത് എനിക്ക് ഒരു 3 വ്യക്തികളെ കാണാമായിരുന്നു. അത് 3 പേര് ചർച്ച ശുശ്രൂഷകരായിരുന്നു. പക്ഷേ അതിൽ ഒന്ന് എനിക്ക് ക്ലിയറായിട്ട് കാണാൻ വേണ്ടി പറ്റിയില്ല. പക്ഷേ ബാക്കി 2 ശുശ്രൂഷ എനിക്ക് ക്ലിയറായിട്ട് കാണാൻ വേണ്ടി പറ്റി. തുടർന്ന് ഞാൻ ദൂതന്മാരോട് പറയുകയായിരുന്നു എന്നെ എത്രയും പെട്ടെന്ന് താഴോട്ട് എത്തിക്കണമെന്ന്. പക്ഷേ ആദ്യം എന്തോന്നറിയത്തില്ല, ഞാൻ ഇച്ചിരി നല്ല രീതിയിൽ തന്നെ പറഞ്ഞു എന്നെ എത്രയും പെട്ടെന്ന് എന്നെ താഴെ എത്തണം, എനിക്ക് ആ ബദലേ ചർച്ചോട്ട് പോകണമെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് എന്തോ ആ ഒരു രീതിയിൽ ഞാൻ നേരെ താഴോട്ട് വന്നു. എന്നെ ദൂരെ ഇവിടെ കൊണ്ട് ഇറക്കി വിടുകയായിരുന്നു. ഇറക്കി വിട്ട സമയത്ത് പിന്നീട് ഞാൻ കണ്ണ് തുറക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് എൻ്റെ ശരീരത്തിൽ ചെറിയ ചൂട് പോലെ എനിക്ക് അനുഭവിക്കിടയായി തീർന്നു. ചൂട് അനുഭവിച്ചു. പിന്നെ എനിക്ക് മനസ്സിലായി ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ ശരീരത്തോട് തന്നെ എൻ്റെ ആത്മാവ് തിരിച്ചു വന്നു. കണ്ണ് തുറന്നു ഞാൻ നേരെ എഴുന്നേറ്റ് ഞാൻ ഈ കാര്യങ്ങളെല്ലാം ഷെയർ ചെയ്യാൻ ഇടയായി തീർന്നു. ആദ്യം എനിക്ക് കുറച്ച് ഡൗട്ട് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു, കർത്താവേ ഇതെന്തും എൻ്റെ അകത്ത് സംഭവിക്കുന്നതെന്ന്. പക്ഷേ അന്ന് വൈകിട്ട് മഞ്ജുവിൻ്റെ സാക്ഷ്യവാണി കേട്ട സമയത്ത് എനിക്ക് ക്ലിയറായിട്ട് മനസ്സിലായി ഇതെന്നെ കർത്താവ് സ്വർഗ്ഗത്തിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുപോയതായിരുന്നു. പക്ഷേ ഞാൻ എന്ത് ബാക്ക്ഗ്രൗണ്ടിൽ ഞാൻ പഠിച്ചോ അക്രൈസ്തവ മാർഗ്ഗത്തിൽ ഞാൻ എന്ത് സ്വർഗ്ഗമെന്ന് പഠിച്ചു അതിനേക്കാൾ എൻ്റെ ഡിഫറെൻ്റ് ആയിട്ട് എനിക്കിവിടെ കാണാൻ ഇടയായി തീർന്നത്. അതേപോലെ തന്നെ എനിക്ക് വേറെ അനുഭവം ഉണ്ടായിത്തീരുന്നു. 2013 മെയിൽ നടന്ന ഫാസ്റ്റിംഗ് പ്രയറിൽ എനിക്കൊരു പാസ്റ്റർ പ്രാർത്ഥിച്ച സമയത്ത് ഞാൻ നേരെ താഴോട്ട് വീഴുകയായിരുന്നു ഇതേപോലെ തന്നെ. പക്ഷേ ഒരു ചൂട് പോലെ എനിക്ക് അനുഭവപ്പെട്ടില്ലെങ്കിലും എൻ്റെ ശരീരം എനിക്ക് കാണാൻ വേണ്ടി പറ്റുമായിരുന്നു. ഞാൻ നേരെ മുകളിലോട്ട് പൊങ്ങിപ്പോയ സമയത്ത് എനിക്ക് ഒരു സ്ഥലത്ത് നിന്ന് ഒരു മനുഷ്യൻ്റെ ശരീരം എങ്ങനെ കത്തിക്കുന്നു, ആ കത്തിക്കുന്ന സ്മെല്ല് പോലെ എനിക്കത് അനുഭവിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി ഇടയായി തീർന്നു. ഞാൻ അങ്ങോട്ട് പോകാൻ ഇച്ചിരി മടിച്ചെങ്കിലും എന്നെ ഒരാൾ വന്ന് അങ്ങോട്ട് കൂട്ടിക്കൊണ്ടുപോയി. തുടർന്ന് ഞാൻ കണ്ടത് ഏറ്റവും വലിയൊരു ഗേറ്റാണ് കണ്ടത്. ആ ഗേറ്റിൻ്റെ ഫ്രണ്ടിൽ വലിയൊരു എംബ്ലം കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഒത്തിരി ട്രയാങ്കിളും അതേപോലെ സർക്കിളും എല്ലാം കൂടി മിക്സ് ആയിട്ടുള്ളൊരു ഒരു സിമ്പൽ എനിക്ക് അവിടെ കാണാൻ വേണ്ടി പറ്റി. തുടർന്ന് ആ വലിയൊരു ഗേറ്റ് ഓപ്പൺ ആകുകയും ഞാൻ അതിൻ്റെ അകത്തോട്ട് കയറി കഴിഞ്ഞു. ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ റൈറ്റ് സൈഡിൽ ഈ കാണാൻ വേണ്ടി പറ്റിയിരുന്നത് ഒരു വ്യക്തിയുടെ കയ്യിലും അതേപോലെ തന്നെ നാക്കിനകത്തും തീ ഇടുന്നതായിട്ട് ഞാൻ കണ്ടു. ആ തീ കത്തിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക, ആ വ്യക്തി കരഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക. ആ സൗണ്ട് എനിക്ക് ക്ലിയറായിട്ട് കേൾക്കാം. ആ സൗണ്ട് ക്ലിയറായിട്ട് കേട്ടുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക തന്നെ എനിക്ക് വേറൊരു സൗണ്ട് എൻ്റെ കാതിലോട്ട് കേൾക്കുന്നതായിട്ട് എനിക്ക് ഫീൽ ചെയ്തു. എനിക്ക് ഇങ്ങനെ ആ ശബ്ദം ഇങ്ങനെയായിരുന്നു, ഈ വ്യക്തി പണത്തിന് വേണ്ടി ദൈവത്തിൻ്റെ വേല ചെയ്യായിരുന്നു. ഈ വ്യക്തി ദൈവത്തിൻ്റെ വേല ചെയ്യുന്നതിലപ്പുറമായിട്ട് ഈ വ്യക്തി പണത്തെ കൂടുതൽ കോൺസെൻട്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്തു. ദൈവത്തിൻ്റെ കൊടുത്ത സകല ഗിഫ്റ്റുകളും പണത്തിന് വേണ്ടി വിൽക്കും ഇടയായി തീർന്നു. അതിൻ്റെ പണിഷ്മെൻറ്റാ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് അത് കാണിക്കാൻ ഇടയായി തീർന്നു. തുടർന്ന് ഞാൻ അവിടുന്ന് ആകെ ഒത്തിരി പേടിച്ച് പോയ ഉടനെ പിന്നെ എനിക്ക് അതിന് ഞാൻ വെളിയിലോട്ട് വന്നു. ആ വെളിയിലോട്ട് വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞ് പിന്നെ എനിക്ക് കാണാൻ വേണ്ടി പറ്റിയത് ആ ഗേറ്റും ക്രോസ് ചെയ്ത് തിരിച്ച് വെളിയിലോട്ട് ഞാൻ വന്ന സമയത്ത് എനിക്ക് കാണാനായിട്ട് ഒത്തിരി ഒരു പുക പോലെ ഒരു കാര്യം എനിക്ക് കാണാൻ ഇടയായി തീർന്നു. നേരെ പിന്നെ ഞാൻ കണ്ണ് തുറക്കുകയായിരുന്നു. ഈ ഒരു അനുഭവം കൂടി 2013 എനിക്ക് ദൈവം തരാൻ ഇടയായി തീർന്നു. എനിക്ക് വന്നിരുന്ന 2 അനുഭവങ്ങളും ദൈവനാമ മഹത്വത്തിനായിട്ട് മാറ്റാൻ ഞാൻ പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്നു. ദൈവം നിങ്ങളെല്ലാവരും അനുഗ്രഹിക്കട്ടെ.
Praise God. My name is Cynthia. I'm staying in Bangalore. And from April 28th, every night around 1:30, God would show me visions about hell. And right from April 28th to May 25th to 26th, every night the experience was every day a person along with me would come and teach me the administration, the elections, and how real the hell was, and what are the causes that people went to hell, what are the silly causes that people neglected and that led them to the hell. And on the first day, that is on April 28th, around 1:30 at night, when I was lying down on my bed, I had a vision that is, my house has just been shifted and some other place had been covered me. And in that place, I had one person along with me who was very normal and who was of my height, smooth talking to me. And that person and me were standing in front of 7 walls which had sealed. The 7 walls were sealed with huge seals. And the person told me, stand in front of the wall. And when I stood, those 7 seals broke. And the 7 walls were parted into 2 pieces. As we passed through it, the person and me was in a very smoky atmosphere. The atmosphere was so forced, we had to force the atmosphere and then move. And as we were walking, we had to get into a place which was like a cave-like structure. And as we got into that particular place, the smoke present in that place was so thick. The smoke was thick that covered us all over the body. The smell was like a pungent ammonium burning smell. And the person with me said, you need to observe everything, each and everything that you see here, and you need to put it down in diary the next day. And from there, we went on. As we went on, I was in a place where there were so many blocks onto my right side and to my left side. And each block had numerous cabins, and each cabin had a table and a chart put in it, and then one clay model which was representing like a church, house, person, and tourist places like Nandi Hills, Coorg, and hill stations, and also railway stations, and all such. They were made up in a clay model, like 3D models, and they were put up. And around the table, I saw 5 spirits which took up a wing shape, only a wing shape. Upon these 5 spirits, there was one head spirit which had ruled over or was a leader over these 5 spirits. And these 5 spirits would bring out each assignments that had been assigned to them, the results, like what results they got by doing those assignments. And this one spirit, which is about these 5 spirits, would agree and disagree the decisions, whatever the 5 spirits was bringing to it. If the assignments were fully fulfilled, the spirits were honored by adding up a wing to them. And if the spirits were not doing the assignments at the right time, the spirit which had the wings had been cut. And the person with me said, the speciality of the spirits in hell is their wings. Each person or each spirit will have a wing with them, and how much of a wing they have, that shows their power. If a spirit has 5 wings, it shows that it's a maximum powerful spirit in the hell. And there was only one spirit I saw which had 5 wings, and that spirit was in an entrance which would bring people from the earth to the hell. This is the only spirit in hell which has 5 wings. And from there, the person told me that this is how the administration things is carried out in the hell. Each day or each time, every time these spirits would get together, they would see the results of how many churches they have been hurted, and how many families have been broken, and how many things that whatever they put forth, did they bring result or not. This was on the first day. And also on the first day, the person with me showed me certain equipments that was used in the hell. And each equipment was so real. It was like earphones and like boxes used in their hands to box, during their boxing times, what they exactly use in their hands, those such things, like shoes, like umbrellas covering them. And every equipment had thorns in them, which would pierce into people's body, and it would almost make a hole. And through those holes, the worms would just eat up the people, bring out the internal organs outside, would kill them, pierce their skins, and the skin would be peeled out. And it's not a one-time process. Every time the skin is being peeled out, it would regenerate again, and the skin would again be peeled out, and it was a continuous process, like a cycle. This was on the first day. And then again, around some 4:30, I was back to my bed. And the next day morning, I got up and I jotted down everything. And from next day, it was a routine play that had happened in front of me. It was so real. It was not that I was taken somewhere, but it was literally the place was brought to me. And on the second day, that is on May 30th, the person with me showed certain creatures that were present in the hell. The first creature goes like a woman which has 7-head snake. The head was like of 7 head, and the body went like a normal woman, and then the legs were like scorpion legs. And this was the first creature. And then the second creature was a man with almost 5 to 7 heads around his body, and fully pussy discharge coming out of his body. And then a lady who is very tall, having a long hair with different colors on her palms and toes. And then again, one small kind of children, almost like 5 to 6 years old, with kind of equipments in their hand. And there were so many worms. And the person told me the worms in the hell, if you go on to their measurements, it's like 1 centimeter onwards. The person never told me till what it ends up, but the worms are so huge, so big, they almost can swallow a man. These were the different creatures that I saw. Then again, on first, the person showed me two persons who were on hell. One was a 20-year-old girl. She was a Christian. And the person told me this girl was a Christian. She would go to church every day. She was in touch with God. She was in a good contact with God. And the whole family used to serve God. But then she had two contacts in her phone whom God said don't want. Every time she used to go, God would tell her in all different ways, God would give her a hint that she wasn't supposed to have these contacts in her phone. But still, she thought, I'm just 20 years old and I have at least live on this earth for coming 30 years. And she just neglected the voice of God saying, by day, I'll change. But one day when she was on a terrace talking in the phone, she had a fall from the terrace, she got a head injury and she died. And the person told me when she died, she saw one vision in front of her. That was an angel who was very far from her, very miles far from her. She would see an angel in a sad face, but almost like a lion opening a mouth and just taking up very arrogantly a person into his mouth. She just saw this was just right next to her. And the minute that she died, and the minute she saw this, she was into hell. And the thing that was happening to her is she was covered by an umbrella kind of a structure which had thorns. It would just pierce into her body. It would peel her out. She would almost melt in it and again regenerate it and again melt. And coming to the sounds over at that time, it was so all sounds just getting together and giving up a very rustling sounds. That was like everybody crying, everybody shouting out for help, and everybody just seeking a way to go out of that place. And in that, this girl, she was almost crying so badly seeing the person who was with me, but she was of no help. The person told me no help. After coming here, there's no help. But the person also told me it is not that once you sin and God puts you into hell, till the last moment God warned her. But then she never agreed and she neglected the voice of God. And then the next person whom I saw was a boy. He was 24 years old. And he was a person who used to like these wrestling and boxing too much. He was also a Christian. And every time you would watch all those stuffs on TV, his father would tell him not to do it. But then he started gaining the spirit of arrogance along with him. He would never have been in peace with anybody. He would be so arrogant to everybody, whomever he saw. It became to the family, his mother, his father, everybody. He was so rude. He wasn't arrogant. He was so arrogant that he had no love with anybody. And once when his father told him not to watch these wrestlings again, and when he became strict with it, he had to go. He was so pissed off with that and he was so depressed with it. He went onto his terrace, and when he was just thinking about it, what am I going to do? Thought in a mind that I don't want to live anymore on this earth, so I just going to suicide. So he fell from his terrace and he died. And the person told me, even before anything happens like suicide or addiction, what exactly the spirit does is it puts a thick layer on the mind and thoughts of people. That is, the people can't think, they go freezed. They become freezed, they don't know what to do further. And at that time, the Satan takes up the whole thought realm and the mind realm. And that is the time where the people get into addictions and they suicide and all those stuff. That's what the person told me on the second day. And coming on to the third day, the person showed me how exactly the election would happen in the hell. That is, the center part of the hell was like a round table conference. There one spirit which was very huge, the hugest spirits, I would say, the very huge, scary spirit in the hell was that. It was tall enough and it had five spirits attached to the hip of it, and these five's head only was being seen. And it had a sackcloth which was covered like a blood around it. And then when this particular creature would come to that round table, there were 9 spirits that came which took up the main administration in the hell. And these 9 spirits would tell all the results. Those 5 spirits which is under that 9 spirit would bought them and would have come and told all these results to this particular big huge spirit, and this huge spirit would take all those results and see how well they still can work on it. They will still tell the different ways, the methods, and different type of equipment that has to be used to deceive people on the earth. And on that particular part, there's one thing the person told me, how exactly even the spirits targeted the fetus, even before the baby was born, or even before the baby is in the womb of the mother, how the Satan or the Lucifer would exactly deceive. The first thing is that the huge creature told those 9 spirits to assigned the other 5 spirits to go and speak negative words in the ears of the mothers who are carrying. This is the first vector, or this is the first communication between the spirit and the mother. That is the negative words. The negative words that are being spoken by the mother who are carrying is a transport media for the child to be under the Satan's authority. And this, again, the person told me that they would grumble about their pain, they grumble about their activity, that is, they're not able to do their activity when they're carrying and all these stuffs. And such little and silly words would cause a very big impact on the fetus that is there in their womb. And on that particular day, the person with me said, the next day you'll be knowing more about the abortion. And that day I was back to my bed. And again, on 3rd of May, I had a vision. That was that 5 to 7 women in a place being pierced and torn by those small spirits whom I saw, those small creatures whom I saw. Those spirits are just peeling out these women over there. They're just taking out the internal organs. And when they're taking out the internal organs, they take up the fetus that were in their stomach, and they squeeze the fetus ears, and they squeeze the fetus neck. And when they do this, literally this is being suffered by the mothers who are sleeping or who are lying down there. And they squeeze these fetus neck and the ears. Mother's neck and the ears are being squeezed. And when they are squeezed, the eyes just pop out. They become so thin, they become very little in area, and they're not able to talk. They become suffocated. And at that time, the person told me, this is what happens to the mothers who undergo abortion. The person with me said God really hates the action of abortion, because there was one woman who was in the hell, and her husband was a doctor. And when she was carrying for the 3rd time, on the scan, she got to know the child that is being brought in within her had a deficiency, that is, the right leg wasn't grown well. During the scanning, when her husband came and told her all these things, she said, I don't want such a child, because the 2 childs whom she had before, very smart, very tall, and she said, no, I can't get a shame to my family by giving a birth to such a child. And just because they had money, she underwent an operation, they killed the child. And even before 1 week was completed, the guilt killed this lady. Every night she would not able to be sleeping, and every time she would go to her bed, she would get the sounds of hearing, people crying, and babies crying, and all over she would see blood. And one night she just got an heart attack and she died. And the time she died, she was here. So the person told me, everybody thinks money works. Money is the biggest sin ever, it takes people to a biggest sin. The person told me, just because they had money, they did all such stuffs, but at last she had to land it up here. This was the 3rd day. And again, on the 5th of May, the person showed one man who was being tied onto his right side and his left side by a thorny structure. It was almost binding him on his right side and his left side. And this person was a husband of a wife and a father for 2 children. And wife and his children were Christians. They were going to church, but he was against them. And every day he would hit these people, saying not to go to church. And every time his wife tried telling him about Christ, telling him about Jesus, but still this man never agreed. And one night when he wanted to kill his wife, by pouring kerosene on her and burning her off, he hit her so badly that she fell unconscious. And when he wanted to just burn off this lady, this man fell down, got epilepsy, that is, he got fits, and he just died. And after he died, he came to this place, and he's been pulled by both the sides, on his right side and his left side. When he's been pulled, his body is being teared into 2 pieces, and the worms just eat up him. And he just cried to the person with me, saying, just give me one more chance to ask sorry to my wife and my children. But the person with me said, no more time for you. Maximum time was given when you were on earth. You never utilized it, and this is the place. And then on 6th of May, I saw a person, and his name was a pastor in a CSI church, which is situated in. And he said this person every Sunday would get a word from God, what to exactly speak to his people. But he used that as a transport media to hurt the people who were not in a good communication with him. And when this happened, every Sunday God would tell him not to do this, because the person told me God loved when his people come together and worship him. And anything being told and blessed on the service, when people come together, God does that, because God himself comes down with his glorious presence on the people when they get together to worship him. And in such a movement, when this particular pastor he used those words where God wanted to comfort people, but he used those words to hurt and to tell other people that they were not in a good touch with him and it's not going to work out for them. To import all this to the other people, he used that as vector. But every time God told him, he didn't change. He had a negligence towards the voice of God. And one night after his service, when he was back to his house, he got a heart attack and died at the spot. And the time he was dead, the place he was is in hell. And the place where he was alone in a place, and it was a room which had a very small opening. His body was melting as a candle was melting. He had no shape all over his body, one full, like a volcano's lava just covering him up. That is how the burning coals were covering him all over his body, and his whole room was with burning coals, and it was just peeling off his skin, melting him up, and there was absolutely no shape for him. So the person told me, like you, the people who come to hell will at least come across one person like God. It means to say how many people have negligence towards the voice of God. That's what the person told me the day. And the next day, I and the person was in a different kind of a place which had, the floor was made up of glass. So we had to push the things that was on the glass and we had to see what was happening below the glass. And what was it is, there are two groups of people. One group of people were with horses, and above the horses there are spirits. And the other group were certain men and certain people, and there was one spirit in between them. And this spirit would call one person from the right side of that, and one spirit which was on the horse, and it would ask this person who's on the horse to kill or to pierce the person who was towards his right side. And that is how the spirits would practice before getting into the people like murderers or killers or these stealers and all, robbers and all. Even before the spirit would get into such people, this is how they were practiced or trained in the hell. People were indulged in this killing people and robbing things and all this. Whoever was indulged on these things on earth was whoever were on hell. The spirits would train themselves on such people. It would train them like stabbing them, killing them, and taking things from them. And this is how they were trained, even before they were sent on earth to take up or take authority over such people. And that time the person told me, sometimes on earth, we Christians are not trained to do a warfare section. We people are not trained how to be truthful to God. We are not trained how to listen to the voice of God and walk to it many of the times. But on hell, the spirits are trained even before they are sent on people. That's what the person told me. And then on the next day, the person showed me a boy who was interested in wrestling again. This man, who was very much interested in this wrestling and boxing and all that, had to meet a person, one of his friend. And when these two were in a conversation, and that brought to a fight, and they both started fighting. And this boy who was indulged in seeing wrestling and WWE and all that, started fighting with this boy and killed him. And literally this became such a big serious, into jail, and he was in jail for some 3 years. And these 3 years, every day, every night, the guilt killed him. And one day he had a blood vomiting and he died. And before that, these 3 years, what exactly the spirits did to this boy was, every night they would eat him up. Every night the guilt would eat him up. They brought that guiltness within him, telling that you killed a man, you killed a man, you killed a man. And these words were just sounding in his ears. He was just hearing all this all the time. And one night, when it reached to the peak, one spirit, it attained to his result. Once it got the positive result, 7 spirits helped this one spirit which was indulged with this boy. And the 8 spirits together just killed this boy. And this boy was in hell. And what exactly was happening to him was equipment which is just equipped like a boxer's hand, and it had thorns all over it, and it would just pierce this boy, and it would just pull his skin out, peel it out, and the worms would just come out of those holes and eat him up, and he would just fall, and again he would get up. And this is all happening without, it is involuntary, without their sense. It is like they automatically get up, they automatically, it is being pierced, and it is peeled out again. It's again, the skin is regenerated, it is again peeled out, and that's what is happening. And this was on wrestling. This guy was indulged in wrestling. On 13th of May, God showed me certain compartments that was in the hell. The different compartments was compartment of accident, compartment of spoiling the peace, and compartment of bringing arrogance, compartment of fear, compartment of separating true relationship between the family, and compartment of addiction, compartment of cursing people, compartment of disobedience, compartment of lust, compartment of unsatisfaction, compartment of love on money, compartment of mind ideal, that is dreaming, and compartment of internet, and compartment of media. These were the different compartments that were shown to me on 13th of May. The person told me in these particular compartments, there are almost 5 to 7 spirits that deals within the compartment. And these 5 spirits would assign the other spirits in the hell and send it on the earth. And these spirits would take up certain people that is being targeted in the hell. They'll take up such people, and with that compartment's equipment, they would indulge the people into sin and freeze their minds and thought, and then lead them to the hell. This was on 13th of May, and on 16th of May, God specifically spoke to me about addiction, how exactly people get into this addiction. And various steps was told to me, and the first step was that first a person thinks about it. That, for example, a person was with me, explained me like this. It was that first, if a person has to start drinking alcohol, first he thinks about drinking alcohol. Second, wherever he goes, he just hears about only alcohol, drinking alcohol. Wherever he goes, he sees such pictures. So this stays in his mind. So in the first day, it is like once or twice in a day he thinks. But on coming to the third and the fourth day, every minute in a day, he starts thinking about this addiction, drinking alcohol. And then by end of the fifth or sixth day, his mind is being freezed, its thoughts are being freezed. And the Satan just puts up a thick layer over their mind in such a way that they can't think. And at that time, they get indulged to it. And first, when they get indulged to it, it goes on. And after that, they cannot live with that. They literally cannot live with that. Every time, anywhere they go, they feel like taking up whatever they are addicted to it. Or if not, it is like their spirit or their life is being separated from them. And after telling this, I saw one boy. He was a person who started drinking when he was just 18 years old. And the person told me, around a person who is drinking, 7 spirit controls him. If each person who is drinking is being controlled by 7 spirits, the person told me, just think how many spirits take over a bar, example. So he said, so many spirits are being indulged in just one bar. And that is how once they get into that habit, it's very difficult for them to come out, is because their thoughts are being freezed. They can't think what they're doing. They don't feel guilty, or they don't feel that what they're doing is exactly hurting them. And this is how, and that particular Gaurav was died when he was just 29 years old with cirrhosis of liver. That was his disease, and that's how he died. The reason was that he couldn't stop his alcoholism. And then the next day, he showed me about the road traffic accidents. The spirits in the hell are being trained before getting into particular parts of the roads. He said, especially spirits are found in the circles, in the highways, and in the turnings, which takes a U-turn. In these particular parts, the spirits are being taken up, and such spirits take up a shape like a dog, but the face is like a normal human face, but the body shape, everything goes like a dog. And what the person told me, what are the different equipments that they use for road traffic accidents is giddiness, pushing a person, and the spirits are trained even how to push the person on earth. Even before they get into that action, they're being trained in the hell. So giddiness and pushing a person, losing balance, these are the different equipments that are used before a road traffic accident occurs. And then on 23rd of May, this is something very important. The person told me how the Lucifer in the hell is gained his power. That is, whole lot of spirits in the hell, which is of numerous. There are, I just cannot count how many spirits were there. And all those spirits which doesn't have any shape, blood all over the body, all such spirits get together, and it's like a band sound. It is not a uniform band sound. It is an ununiform. It's like all the sides you hear the sound, and they just go round around this one particular huge spirit. And when they do this, the Lucifer is being gained, that boosting comes within the spirit. And after that, the spirit assigns the 9 main spirits in the hell to do what are the things they're supposed to do on the earth. And this is how the Lucifer gains his power and gains his authority. And after this comes the random murdering, random robbery, and random killing people, random dyings. All this happens on earth after this particular worship is done in the hell. And then diseases like HIV, hepatitis B, typhoid, congenital anomalies, all such diseases, before they take up their shape in the earth, in the earth they say their media or the mode of transport of such diseases or the source of such diseases, mosquito, water, but actually not. It is one particular spirit which is having all kind of symptoms like this typhoid, hepatitis B, HIV, whichever symptoms these people who are affected with such diseases are there, such symptoms the spirit carries, and this is the main source of all such diseases. This is what the person told me on coming to talk about the diseases, especially like HIV, hepatitis B, congenital anomalies, cholera, malaria, typhoid. And then I saw one particular girl. This particular girl's name wasn't told to me, but she wanted to do MBA when she was studying in her 10th. And all family was assisting her to do MBA to go on to that line. But then when she reached her second PU, due to the friends' influence, she got an interest towards modeling. And the family insisted not to do it, but still they pushed her somehow into this course of MBA. But then end of the year, she couldn't study well, so at last she landed up in modeling. In the beginning days, it was going very good. She did everything well. Everywhere she would go, put up a show. It gave her a big name. It gave her a luxurious life. But every night, she would just get somewhere or the other hint here and there that she has to quit this. But she didn't do. And one particular performance where she didn't do it well, a trainer had to shout it at her very badly. He just told her, you can't do anything, you're not fit for anything anymore for modeling. And this word just hurted her so much that night she went, she had sleeping tablets, overdose, and she died. And the person told me, it is so important to even choose a career with the will of God. It's not that everybody who takes up their own wish career will go to hell. But when God asks you a particular career not to be taken, and still you insist for it, and when you go for it, you just land up here. And the person told me, such person whomever you saw may have a very silly reasons for them to be in the hell. But the reason that they're in hell is their negligence towards the voice of God. The much closer you become to God, the much activity or the every activity that we carry should please God. God sees us every work or every words or every thoughts that we think is really pleasing Him or not. And on the last day, the God told me about the video games that the people get indulged in. Even these video games, especially, God specified one thing like Temple Run. All these video games which has these 3D effects gets up the fear, and this fear and this anxiety and that particular excitability that they have while playing these video games like 3D games like this Temple Run and all this, that fear takes up as a door to get into these people. They become so indulged to it. They all the time see how to play with it, and their mind is just fixed with it. And when they've become fixed with it, it's not only with video games, and from there it goes on with the internet, and then comes all type of medias getting into their life, seeing all videos, seeing all unwanted videos which is really not supposed to be seen, which they're not supposed to see, and all that. This is how they get in. But before that, it takes up as a basement like video games. So the person again told me, even to such things, the thought realm is being touched. On overall, all over the persons whomever we met, first their thought realm was touched. That means to say, the person with me told, everything begins with your thought. Every time you think of it, it takes away. So it's better that you don't even think of it. And then on the last day, the person who was with me told me that all the reason that you saw, everything was their main reasons why they reached hell. But even before that, the one particular reason that they reached hell is their negligence towards the voice of God. The person with me explained me how to be so truthful to God. It is difficult to hear that every act of us should please God, but you can actually do that and put it into action when you love God with your whole heart. For example, he said me, when you love a person, you don't feel like hurting that person. You don't feel like doing something bad to that person when you love that person with your whole heart. So first step that every person in this earth should take is that you should love God with your whole heart. When you love God with your whole heart, there's no way for a Satan to find a way within you to put you into sin or to put you into deceiving way. When we love God, we don't feel like doing against God. And even when we step out of the track, God puts us back into the track, puts us into a right way which we are supposed to go. And when He says and when He speaks to us, we should not neglect the voice of God. Because when we neglect the voice of God, God waits till the last moment. He warns us till the last moment, even before the person dies. And still our heart becomes hard-hearted and we don't listen to the voice of God and follow according to it. God gives up. The person told me God gives up at last if you don't listen to Him. God is so gracious. God is so loving to each and everyone. But until the last moment we make a hard-hearted, and we can't listen to the voice of God and we neglect the voice of God, God gives up. And once we get into the hell, there is no way of going out. Hell is so real. It is not of something imagining, or it is not that something you can feel. It is so real. Things, how real on earth it is, the same way it is so real on hell. Therefore, listening to the voice of God, loving God with a whole heart is very necessary for a Christian. And on the last day, the person told the main reason for the people to go to hell is that they neglect the voice of God and they don't love God with their whole heart. The person told me, when you love a person with your whole heart, you don't feel like working against that person or hurting that person. Same way, when you love God with your whole heart, when you love Jesus with your whole heart, there is no ways for sin to enter into you, or there's no way for Satan to find a guilt or a way for a sin within you. That is, you need to love God with your whole heart. You need to do everything to Him with love. It's not that someone is compelling you and you're doing it. It's not that God never forces people to follow Him. God never forces His people to love Him. But when you do it with your whole heart, when you love Him with your whole heart, there is no sin or no spirit that can ever touch you. And never neglect the voice of God. Whenever God speaks to us in any ways, maybe through a book, through a message, or through anything, then and there we need to listen the voice of God and be obedient to Him right there in that place itself. And when we do this, God will protect us from all type of sins, especially the youths in everywhere, wherever you go, wherever you stay. The only way to be protected from the lustful and the earthly things is to love God and to listen to the voice of God.